I've always liked superhero movies. I've always liked action movies with superpower. And one of the power I've always been fascinated by is time travel or time manipulation. And I just realized that Nigerians can manipulate time. Welcome back, guys. This is Madness in Nigeria Living, and I'm your host, Gisi. Today we're diving into the mind of the Nigerian time traveler. See, one thing you have to understand with Nigerian time is the Nigerian experience of time really make you know how time is malleable to humanity. Okay, see, what I said makes no sense. I know it doesn't make any sense, but think about it. If you have an event in 3 months' time and you want to work with a tailor, when are you going to tell the tailor it's the event? And when are you expecting the tailor to get back to you to deliver on their promise? Or better still, if your friend invites you over for a birthday party, 9 p.m. is the start time of the birthday party. When are you going there? When are you leaving your house? If you have a meeting by 8 a.m. and you are the one giving the speech in the meeting, you are the boss, when are you leaving your house? When are you getting there? If you have a meeting and you are the employee, when are you getting there? If you have a flight by 2 p.m., when are you leaving your house? If you have a barber appointment by 5 p.m., when are you leaving your house? All of these questions will give you different understanding of what time is. If you have an event in 3 months' time and you know you're working with a tailor, best believe if you tell the tailor the event is in 3 months' time, you won't wear that clothes for that event. If you have a meeting by 8 a.m. and you're the boss, why come early? They should wait for you. Why do all these different interpretations of time exist? Why? When I first thought of this, my own idea was talk about the discipline problem, because I felt like it really is a discipline problem and Nigerians lack discipline to stick to time. But the last 4 weeks I've been in a rabbit hole and I've been reading about time. And the more I read, the more I wasn't sure why I wanted to do this episode anymore. But I felt it was crucial for me to talk about this. Because in one hand, we understand that time as a concept is something human beings created. In another hand, we forget that time is a concept we sort of created. What do I mean by that? We measure time through events. If we don't see change, we don't see event, our brain lose meaning of what time is. Why is this crucial? Why is this vital? I'm not sure yet. I think this is one of those episodes that we're going to walk through my thought process. We're just walking through my thought process. Funny enough, I've actually recorded this episode 2 weeks ago. I'm not going to release that version. That version is where thought at. This version is going to be us walking through my thought process. Let's get back to Nigerian time. Nigerian time, or the African man time, or CP time, or black people time, it's a time you expect people to show up for an event. They are more likely to show up late than not. The importance of the event will affect how likely they are to show up late or not late. But one thing is for sure, we know that thing is a thing. And so what do? We create an algorithm to solve it. One way to solve it is, if you know this person is like a latecomer, a perpetual latecomer, and you want the person to be on time, you tell them the event is 1 hour earlier. Now, why do we manipulate time? Even with the manipulation, it doesn't necessarily work. If I tell someone to come to an event 1 hour earlier and the person ends up going to the event 30 minutes later than the time I told them, but 30 minutes earlier than the time the event is actually supposed to start, I have effectively created a situation wherein I'm no different from the time I'm complaining about, the Nigerian time, because I've now invited them to an event that would not start early, just because they came early. And I can correct it and say, oh, sorry, you usually come late, was why I did this and I accounted for this, and that's why I invited you in this manner. And then boom. Next time, they won't do that. Next time, they will account for me accounting for them to come late. And when I tell them to come by 8 p.m., they are getting ready by 8 p.m. And even though I know they will do that and I adjust and tell them to come by 7 p.m. for an event that is starting by 9 p.m., by the time they readjust, and if they do come on time, it will be a miracle. Why do we do this? I think the concept of time here is something that is so grand that is difficult to really fully comprehend, but I would say it's madness still. And the madness is not the fact that we look at time in a linear viewpoint, we see time as something forward moving, but the way we experience time is different. Experiential time is really, really different from the reality of what time is. And it's in this rabbit hole of how we experience time that this episode took a completely different direction from where I wanted it to go. Now, see, I went to visit my friend the other day. He lives in one of those apartments that have 24 hours light and windows are locked. There's no natural light entering the house. It's just the light bulbs. I went to sleep, I think, by 12 a.m. or so. I woke up by 4 a.m. and she was still sleeping. I was just on my phone operating my phone. When she woke up and we were talking, to me we spoke for like 30 minutes. I looked at the time and the time was 10. I was like, what? How have I spent like 6-7 hours of awake time? How? That makes no sense. Pause. Why did my brain comprehend time differently? Experiential time. Now you say that is a unique case scenario, that's a unique event, and it has nothing to do with the Nigerian time I speak of. And that's where you'll be wrong. See why you'll be wrong. The Nigerian time is GMT +1. Why? GMT means Greenwich Mean Time. If you know GMT, you know that Greenwich Mean Time is the mean time of a place in UK, London to be specific. Why is standardized time based on a place in London? And what does that have to do with experiential time differing from our body clock? See the thing. Time used to be very localized. When ancient civilization used the sundial, the time of the day was based on how the sun integrated with the time at a particular period. So, thinking about it, I really should have separated the usage of the word time from clock to remove confusion. But now I'm vague. I'm sorry about it. We'll just have to work with me. During the eras that ancient civilization used the sundial is a kind of setup that they draw on the floor. The angle is stick or something, and the direction of the sun will cast a shadow, and that's how they used to tell time. You see, the movement of the shadow was different from the South Pole and it was different from the North Pole. But not just that, it was actually different from community to community, because for one, the earth is not fully spherical and it doesn't move uniformly across the sun like we were taught in our standardized time. And because of that, the way time is in one local zone is very different from the time of another local zone. And that's why if you look at noon is supposed to be the point wherein the sun is directly at its peak. Since I started thinking about this episode, I've been paying attention to it, and I will tell you, our noon, since I've been paying attention, has never been at that point. It either happens earlier or later. And here you say the mean in Greenwich Mean Time was sort of the average, and that's why it's usually like 15 minutes early or 15 minutes late. That's what I saw on Wikipedia. But funny enough, since I've been paying attention, it has been like 35 minutes early, 35 minutes late, which is completely different from what Wikipedia said. And it's because our local time in Nigeria is not the local time in Greenwich. And what does that have to do with anything? You can't deny that there have been days you wake up, you look at the time is 6, but you feel like, this feels more like a 4 o'clock. This feels more like a 5 o'clock. Or there are days you wake up and it's like, boom, whoa, the time is already 8 o'clock, the time is already 9 o'clock, and you look at the time is just 7. Why? It's because our local time and our clock are no longer in sync. The clock effectively separated time from experiential time to mechanical time. And mechanical time is not something our humanity has evolved to. The concept of mechanical time doesn't make sense to our brain. Our brain did not evolve to experience time in that manner. Our brain evolved to experience time through the changes it sees, the changes of the sun, the spring time. Our brain evolved to experience time that way. And when time was standardized and not put into consideration the local experience of time in this area, we effectively created a situation wherein our humanity is separate from time. Now, Nigeria is a place of madness, but our madness comes from our humanity. We are flawed, very flawed, but we are beautifully flawed because we are humans. And that's why you see a situation wherein We really want to be disciplined with the clock, but the clock doesn't feel like it should feel. That 2 p.m. doesn't feel like 2 p.m. It feels like 11 a.m. And that kind of tricks you lose track of time. And that losing track of time is what makes it difficult for us to navigate this. It's what makes it difficult for us to navigate coming early and being disciplined. And mind you, when it's important, we are going to go against our nature. But when you try to curate nature to work with something mechanical, it doesn't always work. It can't always work. And it's because at the end of the day, our local time and the way we experience it, funny enough, the way we experience local time, even within Nigeria, makes no sense. If you are in the east and if you are in Lagos, if you pay attention, look at the time and see when the sun is setting in the east, and you have someone in Lagos, hit the person up when is the sun setting, you see it doesn't coincide at the same time, but we use the same time. Now, time has its benefit. Don't get me wrong. Standardized time has its benefit. It's good for commerce, it's good for capitalism, our best friend. But for everyday usage, it's tricky. It's tricky to stay in sync with time because time does not stay in sync with our bodies, which has evolved to stay in sync with local time. Let me say this again. It's difficult to stay in sync with the clock because the clock has been separated from time, and time is what our body evolved to understand, not the clock. And because of that, you see this situation that is very tricky, very interesting. Now, that said, I've given a case for Nigerians and arguably all Africans. Back to the issue at hand, our madness. Why are we not disciplined? Because honestly, it's very frustrating to go to a party that is supposed to start by 9 p.m. and then the party starts by 11. No, I have other things I will do with my time. I hate when I have an appointment and I make the appointment by 5:30 and I get there by 5:30 and who I'm having the appointment with is on the way by 6. And the funniest thing is, there was a time I started considering, building the appointment around time. You pay for so time. Damn, Nigeria will stop working with you because that doesn't work. And that's the problem. That's the madness. How can we learn to teach Nigerians to be disciplined, to work with time? One of the proposed solutions would be, as a country, as a geopolitical zone, we should create our own local time that reflects the reality. Maybe that will help curtail the lateness. We know that it's not going to happen. Nigeria have too many problems to be focused on this. So, another proposed solution would be, I don't really know another proposed solution. I do feel though that as a society, we really need to pause and think how we interact with time and how we interact with the clock. Because every device now, every phone, every microwave, every fridge at this point in time has a clock on it. How do we interact with the clock and how do we shape our lives around the clock? The shaping our lives around the clock can make our life feel more organized, can remove the humanity from our lives. For whatsoever reason, I feel as a country we need to take time seriously. So maybe I'm in no place to criticize our experience with time because there's no clear solution. I could not give a clear solution, but I beg, Modi, try come early. I beg. If you say 7 o'clock, make it be 7 o'clock. I beg. And that's it, guys. Thank you for coming to this episode. I hope it wasn't a mindfuck, but hope you enjoyed it. Bye. Love you.